What we saw in the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl halftime show last weekend was high art. Art of the highest quality and value. Art that stirred the body, engaged the mind, and for many, fed the spirit. Art with meaning infused in every note, word, dance move, and camera angle. Art with a message delivered with conviction, abandon, and commitment. We also saw the artist, the human behind the art, and all that comes with his inspiration, creativity, and style, along with his assumptions, biases, and motivations. And this past week, we saw the full gamut of reaction. We loved it. We hated it. What did he say? How dare he? Good on him, it's about time. Would you shut up? I'm just trying to watch the game. What we've experienced this past week, the show and the fallout, is always the inevitable result of great art, and I am here for it. Let's get into this. For as long as humans have made art, we have infused it with meaning. There's something very special about using art, particularly music, to deliver a message that makes one think. Music, because it speaks directly to human emotion, can deepen and intensify what might otherwise be dry, uninspired speech. An idea in essay form, no matter how well written, could never hope to have the impact of that same idea skillfully embodied in art. And for controversial speech, it can be the perfect medium for speaking truth to power because of its plausible deniability and style. The artist isn't being subversive, he's just entertaining. Look at those dance moves. I wish I could do that. No need to be concerned over some veiled political commentary. Everybody's distracted by the catchy beat to notice. On this channel, I usually talk about classical music. I try to make a case for using art for a higher purpose than simple background ambiance, as wallpaper music. I talk about the fact that art can be so much more for us than just pretty sounds, that it can connect us to ourselves, to our thoughts and emotions on a deep level. So I was overjoyed to see high art on display to such a large general audience. There are many others online who have done deep dive commentaries on all the symbolism in this show, so I won't be doing that here. What interests me is the controversy surrounding the performance, what was said and why, and whether any of it makes any sense at all. Did you know that Kendrick Lamar was not paid for his performance? None of the artists who've done this show in previous years were paid. And you would think an artist would make millions for a Super Bowl show. But that's not how it works. The NFL covers expenses and production costs, and the backup performers get paid, but the headliner does not. So why would an artist do it if they're not getting paid? The answer? Exposure. Numbers vary, but Nielsen says almost 128 million people watched the Super Bowl this year, the largest TV audience for any kind of event in history. Apple, the presenting corporate sponsor, says it is the world's most watched music performance. Every artist who's done halftime shows has seen major spikes in their record sales, streaming numbers, and tour revenue. And by major, I mean double, triple, quadruple, quintuple the sales. And of course, Kendrick Lamar is doing a national stadium tour starting April 19th. Tickets are already on sale. Except for perhaps the opening ceremony of the Olympics, there is nothing like the Super Bowl halftime show for putting an artist in front of millions of new listeners. New listeners to buy your records, see you on tour, and perhaps resonate with your message. Which leads me to my one major artistic critique of the show. Every piece of high art has flaws, sometimes tragic ones, because it's made by humans, and this one was no exception. Unless you were already familiar with his songs, you couldn't understand the words he was saying in performance. Now, I am certain that many of the people who used the word mumbling to critique his performance had no idea that this is a very specific, quasi-disparaging term in hip-hop. Remember, we're dealing with millions of new listeners. Mumble rap, a loosely defined microgenre of hip-hop music. The term implies mumbling or unclear vocal delivery used by artists, and it has been used to describe rappers who do not share the rap genre's traditional emphasis on meaningful lyricism, choosing instead to emphasize other aspects of delivery, like melody, mood, and tone. Mumble rappers generally rap about drugs, sex, money, jewelry, designer clothing, and partying. This one issue was the source of much of the back and forth about this performance this past week. Lamar is known as a high-level lyricist, a gifted wordsmith, a poet with style. So his fans rightfully objected to the critique as uninformed. They say, if you really wanted to understand, all you'd have to do is Google the lyrics. So if you're not willing to do that, then of course we know why. Also, many of those who agree with Lamar's political message automatically assumed the criticism was racially motivated. White folks who don't know the art form and can't be bothered to learn. But I've watched the show 3 times now, the live broadcast last Sunday and twice since, and I still can't understand his words. And I'm not racist. A basic of any performance is clear communication. So when some people said they couldn't understand what he was saying, that wasn't necessarily a racist statement. That was a performance critique. Here's a concept from someone who performs for a living. Everything you need to understand an artistic performance should be found in the performance itself. Basic performance craft. Now, you may be inspired by a great performance to do additional research after the fact, to delight in all the hidden details, but it shouldn't be required for basic understanding. As a performer, you can't assume your audience knows who you are. You can't assume they're familiar with your music, and you certainly can't assume they know what you think politically. That's what the performance is for. So, the fact that people couldn't understand his words is a failure in performance execution. This whole thing could have been solved with a set of subtitles, like they do in opera or foreign film, where the producers know a huge portion of the audience is not familiar with the language. Super Bowl, remember? New listeners. This critique is something Kendrick Lamar and every other artist should care about and take seriously, because this halftime show was a missed opportunity. The whole point of the endeavor was to reach new people with your art and message, and perhaps bring millions of them to your point of view, to your way of seeing the world, to winning the revolution, so to speak. But that didn't happen. An argument happened instead, because people couldn't understand you. In this case, execution is everything.